All right, welcome back to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. My name is Guy McPherson. My mission is to help trauma therapists be their incredible selves, to be human, to be real, not just a clinician. I'm a big believer in who we are is more important than what we know. And this requires cultivating authenticity, genuineness, and vulnerability, and that requires intention. You can learn more about my courses and workshops by going to thetraumatherapistproject.com. That's thetraumatherapistproject.com. Let's get started. So 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, folks, welcome back to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. Very excited to have as my guest today, Holly Bertone. Holly, welcome.
Thanks so much, Guy, for having me on. I'm excited to be here and excited to connect with your listeners.
Awesome. You are welcome. So Holly says she's been given the gift of breast cancer and she's a Hashimoto survivor. Her superpower is sharing how gratitude builds fortitude and knowing every lyric to every 80s song ever made. Oh my gosh, we have to talk about that. After spending 25 years rising through the ranks of consulting and federal government service, her failing health shattered her corporate dreams. Thankfully, she's honoring these changes as a gift and has found renewed purpose as a certified health coach focusing on gratitude and mindset. Holly is a CEO and founder of Pink Fortitude and Fortitude Academy. She's also host of the Gratitude Builds Fortitude podcast, where she helps women view their diagnoses or diagnosis as a gift so that they can unwrap their resilience to build fortitude with gratitude. Holly, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. So before we get going, share with our listeners where you're from originally and where you are currently.
Actually, interestingly, I grew up in South Central Pennsylvania in a small town. I was
I used to live there.
Oh, okay. Waynesboro, okay. South of Gettysburg.
Okay.
And I actually lived in Alexandria, Virginia for 22 years. And 3 weeks ago, I just moved back to the area. So it's kind of coming back home.
Wow. Cool. All right. So let's start here. How did all this unfold for you?
Yeah. So I like to say everything began the day before my 39th birthday, because my 39th birthday was the day that everything changed. But I like to share the person who I was the day before, because I think that helps set the stage. And I was climbing the corporate ladder. I was the chief of staff of one of those 3-letter federal government agencies they make TV shows about. So I had a very successful career. I was racing Xterra triathlons, and I was a mountain bike racer, traveling all over, drinking margaritas with my girlfriends, like living what I thought was the perfect life. And on my 39th birthday, I was given the diagnosis of breast cancer. I got the phone call from my doctor, and he said, I'm sorry to let you know that you have breast cancer. Now, all of the tests had been in progress, but when I felt the lump, deep down I knew, but it's hearing those words that it really comes to life. And I went through surgery, chemo, and radiation. So kind of traditional treatment. And what had happened was after treatment ended, I kept getting sicker. I was not getting better. And I kept going back to my doctor, and they said, well, your body's been through a lot. So, it's going to take you a while to recover. I'm looking around at all of the women in support group. They're out running those pink ribbon 5K races. I can't get out of bed.
Oh, man.
Something is wrong with me. They finally diagnosed, took another year that they diagnosed me with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune condition. And so that was 2010 and then 2011. And that was what started the whole journey and the whirlwind ever since.
So, excuse me for that, but pardon my ignorance here. When someone, or when you got diagnosed with breast cancer, do they say, okay, is it on a continuum of severity?
Yeah, the doctor, oh my goodness. The doctor that called me to give me my diagnosis was a doctor in my practitioner's office. I had never met him before. And the word that he said was, "Don't worry, you have the good kind." Now, I don't think there's any cancer that I would consider the good kind.
Right, right.
But it was, for anyone listening who's familiar, I was ERPR positive, HER2 negative. And they still couldn't agree if I was 1B or 2A, but my tumor was lazy and small. So on a scale of, I guess, good cancer to bad cancer, I don't know. I wouldn't call any cancer, a good cancer, but it was definitely a lazy tumor and very treatable.
Right. I can't imagine just hearing that and getting that phone call. So you said after the Hashimoto's, the journey began, the world would begin. How did things unfold for you? Yeah.
Yeah. So what had happened was, it's in this community, there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, I would never want to wish this, or I'd never want to wish this, or I'm glad I don't have this, or I'm glad I don't have that." And I hear that, and having both and kind of coming at it from both sides, one's not better or worse than the other. They just kind of have their different demons that come with them. And with an autoimmune disease, there's a lot of daily life challenges that they're relentless. So things like fatigue. My fatigue was debilitating. There was a lot of pain. There was a lot of IBS. There was a lot of migraines. So I was living with this and dealing with this and trying to navigate a full-time job and a family and doing all the things. And it was impossible, to the point where in 2017, my health had crashed so much and my health was in such bad condition. The fatigue was so bad. I mean, I was all but bedridden. Wow. And they basically forced me to resign from my federal dream job. So that really took me out for a minute.
Yeah.
But I made a choice. We all kind of come to that place where we can make a choice. And I decided that this is not acceptable. I don't want to live this way for the rest of my life. So I decided to take responsibility for my health. I became a certified natural health coach. And that's what started the process of looking into more natural methods and modalities of healing. But
let me pause you.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Second. So with the Hashimoto's, had you been symptomatic like before your cancer diagnosis, or did this happen, just after the cancer diagnosis?
I was racing triathlons and working and doing all the things. It's not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm just curious.
Although I don't know, I think probably chemotherapy and all of the cancer kicked it into a full-blown diagnosis, but I'm sure under the scenes with such an unhealthy lifestyle, that I'm sure under the scenes, a lot of it was brewing for years.
So you said things changed and you were looking to more kind of holistic remedies. What were you doing prior to that to help with the Hashimoto's?
Absolutely nothing. I was drinking 6 cans of Coca-Cola a day, eating, pasta and pizza and, just.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get to a point where you're like, this is not acceptable. So what do you start doing?
So I started with the nutrition, and that moved the needle a little bit. I started with removing toxins, and that moved the needle a little bit. But I plateaued. I was like, I tried everything. I tried everything. The, infrared saunas and enemas and supplements and acupuncture, you name it, I tried it. And it wasn't until I took a step back and started addressing the emotions and all of the mindset stuff. And that's really where gratitude became such a huge part of my life. And really when that inner healing started to begin.
Okay. So this is awesome here. So how did you know to start addressing the inner work, your mindset in a sense?
I was doing a lot of reading and research, and I think sometimes you just hear something
Right.
so often. And interestingly, back to the breast cancer days, about a month after my diagnosis, I felt this peace kind of come over me. And I had joked so much about breast cancer being my birthday gift. I was being very sarcastic, using humor as a coping mechanism. It's like, oh, some girls get earrings, some girls get flowers. My gift was breast cancer, in a very sarcastic way. And I said it to myself and everyone else so many times that I started to believe it. And I didn't know what that meant when I felt that peace, that this is a gift for some reason. I didn't know what that meant at the time. And then fast forward years later, it all started coming together. And I'm realizing there's a gift in this. I don't know what it is yet, still at that moment in time, but I knew that there was a gift. And could I tell a story about my mom? Do we have?
Of course. Yeah, sure.
Like a little detour. So when my mother was, when she found out she was pregnant with me, she was diagnosed with Addison's disease, which is a very rare adrenal disorder. And the doctors told her that I would never be born. The doctors told her she would never live past the age of 30. She actually passed away at 73. So she lived a very full and active life. But growing up, I watched her through some very healthy years and some very sick years. And she always said, it builds fortitude, it builds fortitude, it builds fortitude. And it was just her life mantra. It's something I heard every single day. And when I got sick myself, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Like this whole thing, like the storms of life, it's, the storms of life builds fortitude. And I kind of took that with me. I'm like, it builds fortitude. And it wasn't until actually after she passed away, and I had already been knee deep in researching gratitude and studying gratitude and learning about gratitude and practicing gratitude and even starting to share it with my community, that it clicked, that it wasn't the it of something bad happening or the storms of life that builds fortitude. It was actually gratitude. And looking back at her life and how she just showed up every single day in a state of gratitude and love and happiness, regardless of what was going on. And it clicked. Like I was doing it. I don't want to say I was doing it wrong, but it was that light bulb moment of making that switch. And the research proves it. I mean, gratitude builds mental resilience. There's plenty of studies out there. And realizing that gratitude builds fortitude, like this is it. This is it. And it all starts there. And that's when I realized, like, this is my message.
So just for me to get clear here, you're saying that you began to express gratitude just because that's what you wanted to do, not because of gratitude to look at these diagnoses as a gift in a sense. Is that?
Yeah. So I realized that there was something bigger. Like this is all happening for a bigger reason. And the pieces just started to fall into place one by one. And realizing that just gratitude is kind of the key to everything. And I started by making a list of 3 things. I think it's kind of what we're all taught to do. But making a list of 3 things, it's a checklist. It's just an action. And it's not until you actually understand gratitude from that holistic perspective that it stops becoming something that you do and starts becoming who you are. And that's when you realize the absolute game changer in your life because it can affect every single area of your life. I mean, this study show it improves your relationship, your health. You can exercise more. You have less stress. You fewer, disease. All of these things, and it's because it's that change in mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Your cells listen.
Mm-hmm.
Your cells listen to everything that you say, everything that you eat, everything that you drink, every thought that you have. And when you're in that state of gratitude, it just trickles down to all the aspects of your life.
I would imagine that it takes a certain amount of strength to be, in Hashimoto's and experiencing all of those symptoms that you mentioned, and being able to pick your head up and find gratitude. How do you get there?
I like to say starting out, and I'm not saying you can't do the list of 3 things, but starting out to meet gratitude where gratitude is at and let gratitude meet you where you're at. Because I know in my community, and I'm sure you're in your community as well, we're facing tough challenges and, looking at specifically, with trauma. And a lot of individuals in my community come into that disease state with trauma already there. And if it's not there, the disease state causes its own state of trauma. Mm-hmm. So looking at it from a place of, your body's been broken down, your body's betrayed you, you're maybe depressed and feeling all of these things and, not having that self-love. And it's hard to kind of go from that place to, oh, I'm happy and, oh, just be grateful, right? I cringe when people say, oh, just be positive or, oh, just be grateful. I absolutely cringe. I'm a gratitude coach and I cringe when people say that because that's not what it's about. It's those tiny little steps to get you to that place and to start with meeting gratitude where gratitude is at and letting gratitude meet you where you're at. So it's one step at a time. And I actually teach it from a place of from personalities, looking at it if you are someone who is, kind of a driving personality to just, have fun with gratitude, make it a game, make it just, kind of a competition. Mm-hmm. If you're someone who's more heart-centered, to just go really, really deep with it, take one thing and just go really deep with it. If you're someone who's more analytical, you are going to be that list maker, right? And you're just going to have a gratitude journal with lists all over the place. If you're someone who's a little more outgoing, kind of the life of the party, you're going to want to share gratitude like glitter, all over the place. So there's different ways to get started. It doesn't always have to be that list. And what's interesting, actually, can I share another story?
Of course.
Yeah. So when Mama Fortitude passed away, I was 100% in the feels, right? Like my mother just died and I'm very, very sad. And I was knee deep in my gratitude practice at that point. So I've got these, I have 2 toddlers on each of my shoulder throwing tantrums at each other. Okay. One side is, be in the feels, you need to just be sad. And the other side is, well, you do gratitude and that's your thing. So you need to be grateful. And I have these 2 toddlers throwing tantrums on my shoulders at each other. And so I just kind of got quiet and I'm like, okay, I don't have to feel grateful. I want to be in the feels. And that was okay. Mm-hmm. And then at one point, I started thinking about, I had this little yellow mechanical pencil, like the click, click with the, and I love that pencil. And at one point, I just thought about my pencil and I was grateful for my pencil. And I was like, okay, this is really weird. I am grateful for a stupid little yellow pencil. And it opened the door. Mm. And that's all that it took. So, I mean, I know you share too, like, it's okay to be in the feels and it's very normal and natural and it's a part of it.
Right.
But there's also a time and a place to say, okay, I'm ready to take those first steps.
What do you say to people who are like, how can I be grateful? I've got this disease. Grateful for what? Yeah. Where's my friggin' health?
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And that is a very, very valid. And I hear that all the time. And especially individuals that come into my community, I had at one point taken a survey. 75% said that either gratitude did not work for them or that they were not deserving of gratitude. And part of that is because of that diagnosis. But gratitude changes your brain. So even if you don't want to be grateful, even if you don't think it's for you, it will change your brain and it will change your life. And it's a place at some point down the road, like I said, from it being something that you do to becoming who you are, to realizing that everything really is a gift, that there is gratitude in the good, the bad, and the ugly, in it all, that everything is happening for us instead of to us. And when that switch happens, that's really when the magic happens.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I believe that. And I think it can be challenging for a lot of us. And it almost feels like it's Zen master territory, really hard to do.
It is.
But I also think that can't we, and look, I haven't had a diagnosis like that, but, I've gone through my own crap, and can't we go through that and still be grateful, right? They're not necessarily mutually exclusive, but having gone through, and experienced both of these issues, these diseases, what are you grateful for?
What am I grateful for?
Yeah, Holly. Besides your yellow pencil. Or including your yellow pencil.
I'm grateful for it all. It's and today there was something not so good that happened this morning. And then right before I jumped on here, had a very wonderful event happen to a friend of mine. And I kind of said, like, I could be grateful for the good event and not for the bad, but I'm grateful for it all because it all serves a higher purpose. And what's interesting about this, can I tell another story?
Of course. Yeah. This is what this is about, Holly. Go for it.
Yeah. So I was traveling to the West Coast and back a few years ago with my ex-husband, and knee deep in gratitude at that point. We stopped at a hotel and they said they had a room for us. Now we're in the middle, I think, of like Kansas or Kentucky. We're in the middle of literally of nowhere. And it's like 7:00 at night. We've been traveling for 12 hours. And we get to the hotel. It's like a 15-minute wait. And the manager was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, your room's not ready." What? So they finally had the room ready for us. We go up and it's 90 degrees outside. It's in the middle of summer. And walk in. Well, the air conditioner was broken. And it wasn't just broken. The air conditioner, it was leaking all over the floor. So, air conditioning leaking on carpet, and it's like squish, squish, squish.
Oh, no.
Right? I don't even want to think about the mold in the room. So we go downstairs and they did not have another room. So we go back upstairs, like, okay, let's get a shower. And there were no towels. And at this point, he followed me down. I used to be very, very reactive. And he follows me down because he's like, at this point, I just want to see fireworks, like, let's just watch the redhead go, let's just watch the redhead, throw off some fireworks. So we go down, there was no towels. And the manager explained, I guess there was mutiny in the hotel and like all the help quit. And so he was just trying to, hold down the fort. And, it was just an absolutely horrible day for him. And I didn't even think about what came out of my mouth. And I said, it's okay. We're grateful for the room and a roof over our heads. And, we'll figure it out. And thank you for a place to stay tonight. And after the words just came out.
Wow.
And this was the first time that I realized this is something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not an on-off switch. Like, you can feel grateful in the moment, but it's not on-off switch. It's a muscle. It's like exercise. Like you can't do 10 push-ups and then have beautiful arms.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the moment, that was the pivotal moment that I realized how much gratitude had changed my brain, how much gratitude had changed my reaction, and how much gratitude was starting to change my life. And it wasn't just me. I gave that gift of gratitude to that manager.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave that gift of gratitude for him to give to the next person. So I wasn't the angry customer screaming at him, the probably 20th angry customer screaming at him that day.
Right.
You know?
Wow. So. Is it, I just recently got divorced, and it was I was on the receiving end of it. And I'm like, what? And I quickly realized that, I could be so angry and so pissed off and feel toxic and just sit in the corner with a blanket over my head. But I can't do that. Life is too friggin' short, and I honestly, but, people ask me, well, my God, that sucks. And, but there have been good things to come from this. And I honestly don't know. Maybe I'm getting to the point where I'm grateful for this, but I kind of feel like I'm getting there.
Yeah. And we can either look at things as problems or opportunities. And when that shift happens, when we look at things as opportunities, life just opens up a whole set of doors.
Because we have a choice.
Because we do have a choice.
Right. And it's so easy to go down that route of this sucks. My life sucks. Why the hell did this happen to me? And that's a very easy way. It's almost like culturally encouraged way. We see it all around us all the time. But this other way of looking at things, is it easy? I don't think it is.
No. But here's the thing, Guy, is and I actually just recorded 2 days ago. I recorded the Gratitude Builds Fortitude podcast. I recorded an episode on this very topic. Is if there's a situation in your life that's not going to change, that situation is going to be there.
Right.
So you have a choice of how you can respond. And you can either use that situation as an excuse, or you can say, okay, I accept the situation for what it is, and I am going to now move on with my life and do my thing and not let it have control over me.
Right.
And that's a powerful place to be.
Right. It is very powerful. And I think it's made all the more so because it's almost like in our culture, it's not the default way to deal with things,
right.
But when you encounter someone like yourself, it's kind of awe-inspiring. I mean, it's like, holy crap, where did you get this? Well, Mama Fortitude, let me just remind everyone, I'm speaking with Holly Bertone. Jesus, Holly, you're pretty incredible. Your website is pinkfortitude.com. Is that the best place for people to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Or on Instagram, holly.bertone.
Okay. We'll also have we'll have that linked up here at the show notes page at the traumatherapistpodcast.com. And also we have a landing page that listeners can go to. Again, we'll have that linked up here at the show notes page at the traumatherapistpodcast.com. What would you say your mission is at this point?
I always like to say that I help my clients go from being grumpy warriors to grateful warriors, and to really just make that switch that, I have a diagnosis or I have this situation in my life, but it's not my prognosis. It doesn't have to take over my life. And to really help individuals understand that this can be a part of who you are, but it doesn't have to be all of who you are.
Mm-hmm. And that you talked about how gratitude shifted things for you. Talk about how it has helped you on your, or what part has it played in your healing journey?
It has been, like I said, your cells listen to everything that you say. And to be in that place of kind of going from, having surgery, hating certain body parts because of the surgery, of dealing with the fatigue and the migraines and the IBS and all of the things, and being in that place where I used to be this triathlete, to hating my body for betraying me and for being so broken, to now being grateful for everything that my body does for me, that despite everything that I did to my body, that it still wakes me up every single day, that I am still alive. My heart is still beating. I am still breathing. And it gives me a choice every single day to make good decisions for my health or to not. And that's the cells listen and the cells respond. And it all starts with gratitude.
Wow. Okay. Share with our listeners what your podcast is.
Yes, it's the Gratitude Builds Fortitude podcast.
Awesome. Well, man, you are one inspiring individual, and I'm sure you hear that all the time. I'd love to have you back at a later date. And I just appreciate you sprinkling your amazingness on us today.
Thank you so much, Guy, for having me on. And I really look forward to connecting with everyone.
All right. Take care.